Okay, so we are here at the Lake St. Clair Lodge and we are going to do a little bit of a retrospect. We're actually at the end of our Overland Track journey, so basically what we're going to do is give a day-by-day account of what took place on the track, followed by a little bit of footage as well, just to give you guys a little bit of inside information. And if you are interested in doing the track, hopefully some of this stuff is useful. If you're not planning to do the track, then hopefully this is just some interesting information and some beautiful footage to inspire you one day to maybe come out and see this beautiful state of Tasmania down here in the south of Australia. So the Overland Track is one of Australia's premier hikes. It's I'm going to personally put it on one of the top of my list of one of the best hikes in the world that I've done to date anyway. It's absolutely amazing. It's stunning to see. So we're going to start off with day one, and before we get into it, we'll have a little bit of a chat about day one. So Miranda, what did you think about day one?
It was very wet.
It was very wet.
There was nothing much to see. Day one was pretty much, we were just hiking straight through kind of to get to the hut as soon as possible. It was just a very miserable day. But yeah, I mean,
it is what it is. Look,
it is what it is.
This place here is one of the wettest places in the world, and they say 80% of the time you do get wet weather here. And day one started off with a little bit of a challenge. It's quite hard to get through down to the Scott Kilvert Hut, which is located, as you'll see, in a completely different situation to where the walk normally travels. Unfortunately, the Waterfall Hut, where we normally would stay, was under renovations. So yeah, we did get a little bit wet, and unfortunately we couldn't make it to the Cradle Mountain summit, but it did make for some really interesting shots, and it was really mystical and sort of gloomy at the same time. Overcame some of our own personal challenges. You know, wet weather gear is really important to me, and I wouldn't say that our wet weather gear particularly held up too well in this instance. And another issue for me was when my gaiter ripped through my shoelace. So when you have a look at the footage, you'll see some of these challenges, but also as well you'll see some of that beauty in there, in some of that mist. So we'll have a look at that hike. A little bit of an overcast day today. A little bit rainy. We're at the start of the Overland Track. Got another 6 days of this to go. Hopefully, not this though. Hopefully the weather gets better. 86 kilometers, I believe it is. Yeah, I don't really feel like going to Wombat Poo. We'll stick with the Overland. Right now we are at Crater Lake. Very beautiful. Where are we going, Chicky?
Marion's Lookout.
So normally you'd see Dove Lake below here, but as you can see, missed. You can see all these markers up here for bad weather. If it was any foggier than this, it would probably be quite difficult to find the path. So we're at the kitchen hut right now, and it's about halfway on our first day of the Overland Track.
currently at 1,230 meters. Started at about 860, so quite a little bit of elevation to this point. Just had lunch inside, and now we're about to make our way downhill. So, run into a little bit of an issue right now. Shoelaces is broke. The gator is ripped right through it. Have to fix that back at the hut. One more hour to the Scott Kilvert Hut, which means one more hour with a missing shoelace. It's spilling over the track. Alright, we've finally arrived at the Scott Kilvert Hut. Must say it was actually a little bit more difficult than what we'd expected. Unfortunately, our wet weather gear didn't quite hold up as well as we had sort of hoped, so we've got some soaking wet shoes and soaking wet rain jackets, and on top of that I've broken a shoelace, but we're here. It's time to get dry inside. At the Scott Kilvert Hut, and we are relaxed now. So now, nice and warm.
So day one was obviously a little bit of a challenge for us, and I will say in that respect, because of the weather, it probably made it one of the more challenging days out of the whole trip. But day two was quite different. What happened with day two, Miranda?
Well, we started off with the major ascent from Scott Kilvert Hut back up to the junction. We had plans to do the Barn Bluff side trip, which would have gave us amazing views. And we were really bummed that we couldn't do the Cradle Mountain summit the day before because of the weather, so we were going to try to do the Barn Bluff. However, when we got up to that junction, it was still a bit misty and cloudy and rainy, and the rangers really warned against us attempting the summit because there's some really steep and dangerous sections, especially in the wet weather, and if you can't see too far from where you're going or too far ahead of you, it could be dangerous. So we had to pass that up eventually, unfortunately. However, sort of later in the day, it really started to open up and become a beautiful day. Even made a really nice side trip.
Out to Lake Will.
Yeah, out to Lake Will, and also to the old Waterfall Valley Hut where we had some nice lunch. Saw some cute little wallabies.
Plenty of wildlife.
That was really nice.
That was really cool. That turned into a really nice afternoon. I feel like that was kind of like a turning point on our trip, where the weather sort of started to pick up and our spirits picked up, and you could actually see some of that amazing scenery. So we'll have a bit of a look at day two and see what happened on day two. It's pretty cool. So we're about to leave the Scott Kilvert Hut and down on Lake Rodway, make our way up to the Windermere Hut. It's quite a long journey today. We plan to go via Barn Bluff, which is an extra 3 to 4 hours. So it puts our journey at about an 8.5-hour journey. And looking at about 19 kilometers. Now that's if the weather holds up. I did read somewhere that 8 out of 10 days it does rain here, and unfortunately yesterday we missed out on the Cradle Mountain summit, so hopefully we'll get to tackle one of the summits today as well.
Right up there is the Cradle Mountain summit, which unfortunately we missed out on yesterday, but at least we'll get to see it as we go on by. You can sort of just see it through the clouds up there. We just made our morning's ascent down from Lake Rodway, right down in the background there, about 500 meters incline. We're about to make our way to Barn Bluff. It's a little bit chilly up here on the saddle. Hopefully the conditions should be okay up there.
We can see the summit behind those clouds there.
It's the Cradle Mountain summit. So we're at the Barn Bluff intersection, and we have to sort of make a decision right now. The weather doesn't seem to really be getting any better. It doesn't seem to be letting up at all, and I spoke to the ranger here, Owen, who sort of advised that going up Barn Bluff when you can't really see what's going on can be quite dangerous. There's some really steep sections and some scrambling, so we're probably going to have to pass this one up, unfortunately. But plenty of side treks to come in the next couple of days.
This is Waterfall Valley Hut, where we would have originally stayed last night, however is under reconstruction, therefore we had to stay at Scott Kilvert Hut. Would have been so much easier if we could have stayed here. We wouldn't have had to do that major climb this morning and big detour, but it's okay. We got to see different scenery and we just wanted to check it out anyways.
Behind me here we have the original Waterfall Valley Hut that was built in 1919, originally for miners in the area, and this is where we're going to have our lunch stop today. You want to see a wallaby? Just chilling. So I had a quick chat to the ranger Owen, and he was just saying that they were Bennett's Wallabies that we just saw before, so they're quite common in the area. Finally, we can see the famous Barn Bluff. Just like that, we leave the Waterfall Hut. We have to say goodbye to Barn Bluff. And our little wallaby friends up there, our Bennett's wallaby friends, as we now know. And the next stop is Lake Will. This is really our first shot that you can actually see of Cradle Mountain in the distance, and the iconic shape that gives Cradle Mountain its main feature and name you can only really see from the other direction. So from here it kind of just looks like a hill, and then we have Barn Bluff right up here next to us. Got Lake Agnew over here, and Miranda says that this one over here is Mt Oakley. So we're doing a little side trip right now down to Lake Will, which is about half an hour each way. We've taken the advice of the rangers and of these signs here that say to cover up our bags over there, and we've just put the rain covers on just to stop these birds over here
tempted to go earlier today, but now it's a beautiful day.
Let's go and explore. Shall we go, Chicky?
Yes.
Impressive view. Got Lake well over there and Barn Bluff. Cradle Mountain in the distance right over here. Making our way right now to the Windermere Hut. So we're now at Lake Windermere and we're just moments away from the Windermere Hut, so we have finally finished our second day. Even though the weather was better, it was still quite tough. A few aches and pains here and there, but what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger.
My new friend.
Do you love him?
I love him.
Go on. Give him a cuddle.
I'm just gonna take a video.
Keep your distance. They bite.
So after day one, day two turned out to be a pretty spectacular day. We're quite glad that it picked up in the end as it did, as you just saw on the videos. So day three, have a little bit of a chat about day three.
Yeah, day three was pretty cool.
Yep.
Great weather the whole day through. Pretty much 10 to 15 minutes from the hut into our walk. Just beautiful landscape. It really just opened up. Button grass plains and tarns and gorgeous mountains, and
Oh, yeah.
it was a really
Pretty
nice
epic.
start to the day.
And if you're not sure what button grasses and tarns are, we'll explain those a little bit more in the videos, but you'll get to see some of those valleys that make the Overland Track such a spectacular track in day three. And a lot of those valleys were forged by glaciers during the last ice age, so you get to see some of that unique landscape. So what we'll do is we'll play video 3 right now, have a bit of a look at that, and then we'll talk about day 4. Alrighty, Windermere Hut. As always with the last to leave, always waiting on someone.
You were always waiting on you.
So we're here right now at the Windermere Hut, and we're about to make our 16.8 kilometre journey to the Pelion Hut. We'll stop along the way at Frog Flats, which is actually the lowest point on the whole trip, which is 730 metres above sea level. So that's where we'll have lunch today, and then we'll make our way to the Pelion Hut. Afterwards we might do a little journey down to the old Pelion Hut, which is an old miner's hut from 1919. These are my makeshift shoelaces. One of the guys here in the hut was actually nice enough to give me his spare shoelaces, but they didn't have any tips on them, so I had to sort of use a bit of elastoplast and So they create their own little tips to weave through.
Oh, really? There's Mount Oakley in the background there. So behind me here we have the button grass plains, and we'll be making our way through those. We are entering the pine forest more. Glad I got my gaiters on. That's where we've come from. Barn Bluff, Cradle Mountain. This is what we've got ahead. Little fields of button grass, little buttons. Marshy pools that we have right here are known as tarns, and this landscape is dotted with them. It's absolutely amazing going through and seeing these little pools everywhere. We will sacrifice 1 minute to go to the lookout.
So we're here now at the Forth River Valley Lookout, and it's snack time.
So just a little simple geography around here. We have Mt Ossa over here, and we're going to be having lunch under Mount Pelion West over here. Pretty sure this is the straightest boardwalk we've had on this whole entire trip. So the secret to a nice, quick, cheap and nutritious meal is a packet of noodles and then some dehydrated vegetables to go in with that, so you get a little bit of nutrients with that. And then all these vegetable seasoning, the noodle seasoning, full of salts and things like that you need to replace. Nice, cheap, quick, easy meal. Hey, so we have ourselves lots of flavour. Yum, 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 with a little veg. This is one we prepared earlier. This is a quick public service announcement on why gaiters are essential on trails like this. Mud, mud, and more mud. When you're wearing your pants several times over, you want to make sure they stay clean. Got a slight uplift here. Jesus, look at that big mass of land and all those trees that have come down. Like a creepy, dark, enchanted forest. All these rustic boardwalks and old log bridges. Somebody built some steps into a tree. So this tree we have up here is called a Banksia. It's named after the botanist Joseph Banks, who came over with Captain Cook in the first discovery of Australia. So name this tree after him. See them, so I'm not sure what they are. So we're entering now into some peaperbark forest. Be very close to Frog Flats. Have a look in for platypus. So we're here at Frog Flats and we're going to take a little rest before we do our ascent up the hill to the Pelion Hut. This is the fourth river, or creek at this stage, that we see here, and we looked over the valley before that the fourth river actually flows through, so this is the start of that. We're currently at the lowest point on the whole Overland Track. So Frog Flats sits at 730 meters. We need to increase by about another 130 before we reach up to the Pelion Hut, over 4 kilometers, so it shouldn't be too steep. So we're going through a beautiful grey gum forest right here. Absolutely amazing. And then up there, the mountain is known as Pelion West. Superb spot. So we're at the intersection of the old Pelion Hut, which was built down there in 1917, and the new one. What we're going to do is go back first and drop our bags off the new hut, get settled in, and then we'll take a light day pack, go down to the old historical hut. Beautiful grassland in the background here as well. It's kind of interesting, when the English first arrived here, they said that a lot of these Australian grasslands kind of looked like an old English garden, you know, in the countryside sort of thing. A lot of that had to do with the way that the Aboriginals, or the indigenous people, maintain the land by burning and clearing land, and that's how you get these beautiful wide open spaces, and it attracts all of the animals, which is really, really cool. After 18.6 kilometers, we have finally arrived at the new Pelion Hut. Not a bad view. We're in a race to beat the rain. So in the 1970s, a lady here died from a tiger snake bite, which was actually the last recorded death from a tiger snake bite on the Overland Track. There have been other bites since, but because of emergency services and obviously personal locator beacons and things like that, rescue can get in quite quickly, which is pretty cool. But we forgot to bring our PLBs on this little walk. Old Pelion Hut. Ooh, there be ghosts inside, Chicky. Ooh.
Can't really see in here.
Huh? You're getting the tour. So we're at the old Pelion Hut, which was originally built in 1919, so 101 years ago today. And it was actually originally built for copper miners in the area that were sort of scouting out and mining in this sort of surroundings. And it was then used by bushwalkers like ourselves and backpackers, and then eventually replaced with the new Pelion Hut down there. And it's just started to rain, so we are making a run back for the hut. pretty spectacular sunset right there.
So we neglected to mention before introducing the last video how spectacular that Pelion hut actually is. It's such a beautiful place. Just sitting out on that balcony at sunset overlooking those button grass plains, absolutely amazing. And having Mount Oakley right there in front of you glowing red in that sunset, such an awesome place. You can see why all the wildlife congregate there and how the Aboriginals really used to sort of maintain that land and make it such a beautiful, spectacular place. So the following day, talk a little bit about the following day. It was a pretty epic day.
Yeah, that's the correct word to describe it. It was epic. Wow. So pretty much started with a steep ascent. Straight up to the Pelion Gap. And from there, we embarked on a pretty awesome hike up to the summit of Mt Ossa, which is Tasmania's highest peak. Yeah. Incredible 360 panorama views from up there, where you can see practically all of the Overland Track from up there.
Yep.
So
the whole trail. You can trace the whole trail, and we do that a little bit in the video. As you see the video, I'll show from the top where we go from the start to pretty much where we're up to at that point. It was the biggest day to date. It was absolutely massive. So we really hope you enjoy some of the footage from that hike. It was spectacular.
So we are leaving the Pelion hut now and making our way to the Kia Ora hut. It's going to be quite a long day today. We've got 2 hours ascent up to the saddle and then planned 4 to 5 hours up to Mt Ossa, which is the highest peak in Tasmania. After that, we've got about another hour down to the Kia Ora hut. So the plan today is to get there by 6 p.m. Did a little side trip in the Douglas Creek Valley and checked out some beautiful little cascades and waterfalls. It's like you're in a prehistoric jungle. Forest goes ever on and on. Walking up through this forest, you know, it's really nice to take a deep breath of air. They actually say that Tasmania has some of the cleanest air, if not the cleanest air in the world. So we're here at 1,113 meters and we're making our way up to Mt Ossa in the background there, which is Tasmania's highest peak. It sits at 1617, so there's another 500 meters to go. It gives us a total of 800 meters of elevation today. So a little bit of geography right now with Shane. We've got Mount Pelion East up here. And if we make our way around, beautiful valley, we've got up here Mount Doris, and there is our goal, Mt Ossa. Got the tree graveyard here, all the tree bones. Loving these little sections of like moss and grass and flowers, little bushes. Reminds me of a Japanese garden. Now for the scrambling portion of the trip. So glad don't have those big backpacks. It's amazing. Such a great view. Still there?
You can see the markers all the way up. Straight shot from here up to the summit.
So this is supposed to be the hardest part of the scramble. The dodgiest part. Sure you want to go first? Alright, probably safer up there anyway. I'll get all the rocks that you kicked down. Free solo here. It's a little bit sketchy. So you can see where we came from. This is Cradle Mountain right down there. That's where we went past on our first day. Second day, Barn Bluff. And yesterday, we were right in front of Mt Ossa over here. Quite a decent scramble to get up here. Last 45 minutes to an hour or so. So we've finally made it to the high plateau on Mt Ossa. Peak is right up there in the distance. Should be up there in just a couple of minutes. Summit of Mt Ossa is actually on top of this rock. Miranda's lost in a maze of rocks. Look at that. Doing the old side sweeper.
We summited Mt Ossa, Tasmania's highest peak. What an accomplishment. After a very steep climb up to this elevation of 1,617 meters, which is equivalent to 5,305 feet, we finally made it to the top, and now we're just enjoying the views that surround us.
So we say goodbye to Mt Ossa, just up there. We're up there only about an hour and a half ago, and now we're making our way down to the Kia Ora hut. Should be about 4 kilometers, so an hour and a half or so, just downhill, about 500 meter decline. We made it there and back.
Excellent.
Time for my favorite part of the day, taking off the backpack. Whew.
So just wow. We are still blown away with that hike. It was absolutely amazing, and it's something that I'm sure we'll always remember. It's when I think of the Overland Track, that is one of the images that is going to always come back to me. Now the following day was completely different. It was a completely different tone to the rest of the trip itself. Obviously we had these big wide sweeping plains with these magnificent views, but it's kind of nice to get into touch with something a little bit different, don't you think?
Yeah, that's for sure. On this day, it was mainly rainforest and waterfalls. It was pretty spectacular. There were 3 different waterfalls. They were all side trips.
But when we say waterfalls, though, we're not talking about little sort of flowy, sort of streamline,
waterfalls.
Epic waterfalls. These are big waterfalls.
I
They blew us away.
was so impressed. I just thought like, oh yeah, we'll see some little waterfalls. No, they were pouring down so much water, such a big volume of water coming from these waterfalls. So that was pretty nice. And we thought, oh, it's gonna be an easier day. We'll get up later. We left the hut like 10:30. Last ones to leave the hut, as per usual.
And we're the last to arrive.
Yeah, because we didn't think we were going to take as long as we did, but being at those waterfalls, we really took our time.
Oh yeah.
It was spectacular.
And there's nothing about the Overland Track that really is subtle and quiet and chill. It's all about big epic landscapes and big epic activity, magnificent wildlife. So, this day is no different. It's just different in the aspect of what you see. So let's check this out. We're about to leave the Kia Ora hut, and we're making our way up to the old Duquesne hut up here. From the Duquesne hut, we'll descend down to Ferguson and Dalton Falls, make our way up to Harnett Falls, and then we have a bit of a climb up to what is known as the Duquesne Gap, which is about 150 meters climb up from there. And then we'll make a small descent down to the Windy Ridge, where we'll be staying tonight. It's basically a rainforest and waterfalls day today, which is pretty cool. Looks a little overcast outside, so it should be nice for that. You can see on these, this is really cool that they have these in the huts as well. They sort of show you some of the wildlife that you might encounter throughout the day. So rainforest wildlife should be pretty interesting.
Gotta watch out for the tiger snakes in this area. Goodbye to the Kia Ora hut. Hello to the Duquesne hut, and on to Windy Ridge. Anyways, there's Cathedral Mountain up there. Yesterday we had a spectacular sunset over Cathedral Mountain. Black cockatoos calling out to each other. Beautiful birds. At the Duquesne Hut, which was built by a guy named Paddy Hartnett in 1910. He was actually one of the first guys that came through here and was guiding people through on the original multi-day walks that became the Overland Track. Look at all the butterflies. You can hear behind me in the big kingbilly pine trees some black cockatoos, yellow-crested black cockatoos. As soon as I walked out of the Duquesne Hut, about 20 or 30 of them flew out above me. It's a pretty spectacular sight, so I'm going to stick around and see if we can capture a few more flying around.
First stop, Dalton Falls, and when we come back, we're going to go to Ferguson Falls.
Bert Nichols' hut now. We've finally arrived after a long day's walk. And this place is absolutely spectacular. Look at this. It's the newest of all the huts on the Overland Track.
Shane, how are you?
Good, good. This is like one of the most amazing hikers' huts I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible.
So as you can see, that was quite a dynamic day, you know, even though we didn't have those wide open plains, or at least as many of those big wide open views that we had on the previous days, it was ever changing, you know. We went through a lot of different types of forests, you know. We had things like beech forest and red gum forest and, you know, all different types of plant life, like the pandani, which we spoke a little bit about in the video itself. So it is a really, really interesting day. Now, the last day, which brings us to basically today, where we are right now, it was an interesting day because we had to get up quite early, right?
Yeah, we set our alarms for 7 a.m.
It's early for me.
Yes, very early for Shane. Planned to be out the door by 8, ended up being more 8:20. That's okay because we really just went straight through to Narcissus Hut, sort of gunned it straight through. I mean, there was still some really beautiful views, especially towards the end where it started opening up a bit more, but pretty much most of the first part of the hike was forest. So it was a hike through the forest, but it was really cool. Got to see some wildlife.
Yep.
Which was...
It was good. It was good to finish off the day with a bit of that. And you look at the Narcissus Hut, if you are doing the Overland Track, it does look like a really beautiful hut. And some of the other people we were travelling with did continue on down to Echo Point, and tomorrow they'll be making their way here to where we are in Cynthia Bay. We just are a little bit short on time, and it is supposed to be a really good day trip. So if you are sort of checking out the Overland Track and looking at your options, don't pass that over. It is supposed to be cool. We are definitely coming back and revisiting that area, along with the Pine Valley, which is meant to be a really spectacular side trip. So yeah, today was fantastic, and if you're looking for a little bit of luxury at the end of your trip, it is quite hard and quite harsh. Look no further than where we are right now. A night here at the Lake St. Clair Lodge. It is going to be a little bit more expensive, obviously, if you are on a bit of a budget and you are a backpacker, but it truly is worth it at the end to have a hot shower, a nice hot meal. Now, tomorrow we've got a couple of little walks planned before we make our way out to Hobart, so we're not sure what's going to happen yet, but we'll make sure we include that on these videos. You never know, we might see some more wildlife as well, so fingers crossed. There's a couple more things that we want to tick off our lists. Won't say what they are at this stage. But yeah, keep tuned, and if you've enjoyed these videos so far, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, Global Travel Stories. We've got plenty of adventures to come. Thank you very much, and enjoy the last video.
So we've just left the Bert Reynolds hut, and we're heading now to the Narcissus hut. Bert Nichols hut, sorry. That one wrong. And we're heading down to the Narcissus hut, as Miranda likes to say, the Shane hut. Don't know why. So Bert Nichols is actually an early hunter and trapper in these areas. He was quite famous around here, quite charismatic guy. Used to take hunting parties in the area and made quite a name for himself in the region about 100 years ago or so. That's why they named the hut after him. Hey, little Patty. So you can see up there in the distance the Acropolis And to get up to the Acropolis, generally people will stay up at the Pine Valley Hut, which was the little turn-off that we passed about half an hour ago. Next trip, we plan to come back to Cynthia Bay to Narcissus. So that's sort of the section that we're skipping today. Go up to the Pine Valley, spend a few days up there. There's a place called the Labyrinth and also the Acropolis up there as well that are worth exploring. It's 2 days worth. So if you've got extra time here on the Overland Track, I recommend maybe considering those as a side trip, or coming back and do it as a separate trip. You can start off at Lake St. Clair and do it as a very, very small trip. 3 or 4 days would be perfect. So a big, giant grey gum eucalypt, and just for a scale comparison, we have a little chickie right over here. Pretty big chickie. Do you love it?
I love it.
Give it a hug. Look at that, true tree hugger right there.
Shano's exhausted. He's got a bad back. Oh. Look where we are, though. Beautiful.
So we're about to cross the Narcissus River on the only suspension bridge of the whole entire Overland Track. It does say one at a time, so Miranda's going to go first. I'm coming too! Just like that, we are done. We're here now at the Narcissus Hut. We've finally finished our journey after 6 days. We're waiting for a ferry to come and pick us up, take us over to Cynthia Bay, where we'll be spending the night in luxury.
Ferry base, this is Narcissus Hut. Hello, I would like to just confirm a booking for 2 for the 1:15 ferry.
I got to see one finally. Ooh.
Finally. These are our bags with clean clothes.
Yeah. Actual civilization, chickie.
Yes.
Down here at Lake St. Clair, which is actually Australia's deepest lake, and this whole region, including the Overland Track that we just did, was formed during the last ice age through glacial movement. Now we've decided to spend our last night here in luxury at the Lake St. Clair Lodge, and it's kind of nice to be all freshened up and get ready to go out to dinner and have a nice warm meal.
Yes, excellent. This is what I've needed.
Thank you, sir.
Excellent, thank you very much. Cheers. Is this what you wanted?
This is what I wanted. I'm so excited right now.
Just a burger.
Oh.
Just comfort food. So that brings us to the end of our trip, and thank you very much for sitting through the whole video, hour-long video. It's quite a big journey, but we hope you got some really useful information out of this, or we're just entertained along the way. Some really spectacular scenery. Now, to wrap this up, we're going to do something a little bit different. I want to be a little bit more engaged with people, and sort of so you get to know us a little bit better as well, and what our personal perspectives are on the hike. Also as well, if you are interested in this sort of stuff and you want to stay engaged with us, please send us an email to globaltravelstories@gmail.com. Ask some questions. We'll try to include them in at the end of the videos and try to answer those as best as possible. They can be travel related, they can be outdoor related, equipment related, anything that you like. Send us through an email and we'll hopefully address some of those questions. We might even give you a little bit of a shout out in the videos. So what we've done is we've prepared a couple of questions for each other about the Overland Track. We don't know what they are at the moment. She's written some for me, and I've written some for Miranda as well. And just a bit of an insight on how we personally feel. So, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
I can go first, okay. So, my first question is a little bit complex.
Oh, great.
It's about equipment, okay, and obviously equipment plays a huge role, and we hadn't really you can never really prepare for these types of things. So we went off a checklist that was provided by the Overland Track. They do give you a checklist at the beginning that you have to sign off on, and a lot of the times you sort of look at things and balk and roll your eyes and things. So what item do you think stands out for you on that checklist, or something that you've just brought along that you may not have thought would have been as useful as it was on the trek, but you found incredibly useful and are so glad that you brought along?
I'd have to say my gaiters.
Gators.
My gaiters. I didn't know if I would actually use them on the trek. I've never actually used the gaiters before,
Yeah.
although I maybe should have in past treks, but I figured, okay, like, I'm gonna bring them anyways. You never know how muddy it's gonna get. My God, I'm so glad I brought my gaiters.
They're super important, alright? Look, gaiters, one of those things, I'm with Miranda on this. I've never really bought them before, and it's probably something I would have gone, oh, what do I need that for? I've done plenty of muddy hikes, and now that I've done this hike with gaiters on, I can tell you what, any hike that I do that even has, I'll just bring them along on any hike anyway, because as soon as you get into that mud, it can run all the way up your pants, and if you are wearing the same 2 pair of pants or 3 pairs of pants for a whole week-long journey, keeping those clean are really, really important. So, gaiters, yeah.
Exactly.
I agree. What's your first question for me? Go for it.
So, my first question, because we stayed in many different huts, and they're all very different and special in their own way, but I want to know, in your personal opinion, what was your absolute favorite hut and why?
Okay. I got 2 answers to this.
Okay.
2 answers. One of my answers is going to be what hut I liked the most, which is the Pelion hut. Pelion hut is absolutely beautiful. But my other answer would be which hut did I enjoy the most, which I probably would have said the Bert Nichols hut. The Bert Nichols hut last night. Now, my 2 reasons for this is, one, the Pelion hut is absolutely fantastic. We just so happened to be there on a long weekend where there was a lot of day trekkers coming in from the River Arm Trek, which is a short trek that you can do out there, and the hut was just overfilled with people. And also as well, the toilets are a little bit stinky in the Pelion hut.
It's terrible.
I think it's because it's such a popular hut, you get a lot of people in there, and it just happened to be that time where they were going through that shift and changing the toilets. But that was probably my worst toilets, but the most beautiful hut. You can see in the images on the videos, the hut is spectacular. The reason why I enjoyed the Bert Nichols hut is because I kind of liked the atmosphere it created. I know we both didn't get a great night's sleep there. It was a little bit cold in the end, but just sitting down at sunset, having dinner there, watching the sun set down, over the mountains behind us. It was just a really, really nice, cozy feeling, and we, by that point, had made a couple of friends and sort of gotten to know people as well. So I liked it for the atmosphere, and it is the newest hut as well. Now, leading to my next question, that was actually going to be one of my questions. So what was your...
I knew this would probably happen.
It is important to talk about the hut. So what was your favourite hut?
Well, I would say my favourite hut and favourite hut stay, believe it or not, is probably the Kia Ora hut.
That was up there with mine. I was almost going to say the Kia Ora.
I don't know why, but it may be because I feel like a lot of people skipped that hut and there was barely anyone there.
That's what I like.
So we had the whole top loft section to ourselves
that was nice.
on this hut, and that was so great. And also, I think the atmosphere was great there as well.
It was cozy. It was cozy and cute. Yeah.
It was cozy and cute. Even saw a little wombat,
Yeah.
which scurried off before we could even get any footage of it.
That was cool. That would be up there. Those three would probably be my top three.
And everything was in close vicinity. The toilets, the rainwater tank, which is very important. You don't want to make a long trek out to the toilets in the middle of the night. So yeah, I would have to say the Kia Ora hut.
Okay.
But I also liked the other huts as well. But for some reason, that one made the best impression on me.
Okay. So what's your next question?
My next question is, so throughout the entire experience, we had either ramen noodles or backcountry kits.
Yeah.
Mainly, I would have either pasta vegetariano,
Yeah.
and you would have your chicken.
There was a lot of it. There were a few different things.
You had more options than I did because I'm vegetarian.
Yeah.
But still, it wasn't a very big variety of food. What I want to know is, what was the one thing that you absolutely wanted to eat once you got here? What were you craving the whole way through? Where you were just like, I can't wait to get here and eat this.
I think I mentioned it. I don't know if I mentioned it on the video, but this is always the thing for me. Like when I go hiking, like when I lived in the Canadian Rockies for a while, what we'd always do, it was kind of tradition, is at the end of a big day's hike, we'd go to a brewery and we'd have like a big pint of like ale, and at the same time we'd get the biggest, most massive burger we could find and chew on that. And it was kind of funny because when we got here to the lodge, we had a bit of a look at the menu, and they had the gourmet menu with the smoked salmon and things like that, all the really nice, fancy, ritzy stuff. And then they had sort of the cafe menu, which was like burgers and pizzas and all the greasy stuff that you just crave while you were out there on the location. So when we got into the restaurant, we made a reservation. It's this nice fancy restaurant here at the St. Clair Lodge. We thought that both options would be available, and the guy sort of said to us, unfortunately the cafe menu is closed now. It's this sort of fancy stuff here, Not only was it quite expensive, but also as well, it wasn't what I was craving, I really just wanted burgers and pizzas, So I asked him, hey, could we just have that cafe menu, and he was nice enough to say, okay, we can do it, let's do it. So I got myself a big burger, got myself a pint of beer, and I sat back and I had that, and tomorrow we're going to get the pizza, of course. And to be honest, it's just the comfort foods that you crave, the big greasy meals.
Absolutely. You're not craving salad or fine dining.
No,
You're craving burgers, pizza.
Yeah. As many calories as you can, all that protein. You've been working it off every day. You're eating rice and noodles all day, and you go to bed and your stomach's grumbling because you're still hungry. You just want to eat the fattiest, grossest foods you possibly can.
Yeah, the one servings were definitely not enough to satisfy you. You'd be hungry.
Not when you're expending that much energy.
Yeah.
So, the next question. Okay, we're talking about favourites here, and out of all the individual experiences, and I'm not talking about days, what experience, one particular moment, could you single out as being your highlight moment of the trip?
My highlight moment.
Just one moment.
What
did you feel the best?
I think we both have the same highlight moment.
What was that?
And that would have to be summiting Mt Ossa.
Yep. Yeah. Ossa.
That was absolutely incredible. You just saw everything from up there, and the day that we had for it was beautiful.
Stunning.
We couldn't have asked for a better day. By the time we got there, it was still like sort of misty and cloudy up there, but once we started hiking, we were like, yeah, we're doing this, doesn't matter. It cleared up, beautiful blue skies, sunshine. Oh my god.
The views were
The
spectacular.
views were incredible, and just the accomplishment of
Being on top.
being on top and
Yep.
summiting the highest peak in Tasmania.
That's awesome.
That's an accomplishment.
It puts you on a high. You know, I don't know if you noticed in the videos, I'm jumping all over the rocks and climbing up things and things. I don't know, it kind of inspires you being in that sort of place and feeling that way. It gives you that amount of energy, and jumping all over rocks and things like that is my way of expressing that amount of energy that you get from being in such a special place. So last question.
Last question. So, if you could do this all over again, go back and start from day one again, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Yeah. There always is. I don't know, Miranda knows me well. Most of you guys probably don't know me that well. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so nothing's ever done the complete perfect way. I could start at the beginning. No, we'll be here for an hour. But potentially leaving a day later. But like weather is something you can't forecast. We're here in the mountains. You can't really do much about that. I would have loved to have seen Cradle Mountain in the sunshine and summited Cradle Mountain itself, and Barn Bluff as well, obviously. And we've already spoken about our next trip back to Tasmania at some stage, doing those things as a day trip. Also the Pine Valley as well, to have an extra day out there or 2 days out there to do that, or even hiking back to the lake. One thing I would have done is potentially skipped the Scott Kilvert Hut.
Same. I think I would have done the same.
It's not that I didn't like it, and to be honest, in the rain it was kind of cool with waterfalls splashing everywhere and all that sort of stuff. Made for great footage. But we did speak to some people who pretty much went straight by that and stayed in the old Waterfall Valley Lodge, the one where we had lunch and saw all those wallabies, and I probably would have done that, to be honest. That's probably one thing.
Well, the thing about the Scott Kilvert Hut is it was very much a detour out of the way. It was a steep descent to get down to the hut, which was a bit slippery and muddy.
Yeah, it was grueling. It was tough.
In the rain, but then you had to make all that elevation gain back up again the next morning, and it was also an hour before the Waterfall Valley Hut. So all the itineraries sort of go from Waterfall Valley Hut to Windermere Hut, and it makes it just a much longer day.
It's tougher. But in saying that, though, the Waterfall Valley Old Hut, it is an emergency only hut, and I believe the guy who stayed there was kind of like in a bit of a fickle situation. He couldn't really avoid that sort of thing, so I don't recommend just skipping it and going straight to there. Plus, the renovations on the Waterfall Valley Hut should be done by next season, so if you're planning to do this hike next season, that should be all done. It looks like they're doing a really beautiful job there at the Waterfall Valley Hut.
Yeah.
So,
Looks pretty much.
so I think that's it for our questions. Thank you guys for being patient, if anyone's still there and watching. And like I said before, if you did want to put through some questions, globaltravelstories@gmail.com. Once again, like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'm going to reply back to everything I possibly can if I see it, which is really, really cool. We really want to get this whole thing moving, and if we get enough support, we'll keep doing these types of videos. We've got plenty of travels to come, and I've got tons of footage from past trips as well that I'd love to put out there and sort of give you guys some advice and travel information for your future plans. Thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you next time. I found a tiger. What are we looking for?
Tiger snakes.
And?
Platypus.
Hopefully. Ticking off some more of Tasmania's great short walks. Miranda doesn't want to climb up with me. It's okay. I'll have all the platypuses to myself, and they'll all be my friends.
about to do a little bit of an Aboriginal cultural walk, and it's quite interesting to talk about the Indigenous culture here in Tasmania, because the Indigenous people of Tasmania were actually separated from the mainland of Australia for tens of thousands of years. So culturally they're quite different to the mainland Australian Aboriginals. Now, it's a little bit of a sad story that when the Europeans came here through the spread of disease, also genocide as well, and the deportation of the Australian people to places like Flinders Island, we actually lost our Indigenous population here in Tasmania, but a lot of them have been coming back in recent years and reconnecting with the land, and I feel like there's a lot more acknowledgement these days. That is a giant. Whoa!
So we just saw a big tiger snake, our first one of our entire journey. It was so quick that we couldn't film it. I actually thought I got it, but I didn't.
I got his tail.
Yeah, you got his tail.
Creatures in Hobart.
Bizarre. Houses are beautiful. Beautiful garden, isn't it? Their lavender seems to be really out in bloom right now. So we're past lavender season. Oh, look at these little bugs. Chubby bumblebee. You're a big boy. You're a big bumblebee. Plum tree. Yeah, they do look like plums. What do you think of Battery Point, honey?